Hi, it's Jan Beta, and today I'm going to try to get this mystery expansion card from the previous video to work in my Amiga 1200. First of all, we're going to have to figure out what this actually is. So this is our expansion card. Let's take a closer look at this. It's a classic trapdoor expansion that goes in the bottom of the Amiga 1200, plugs into the expansion slot and under this flap here. And it has some RAM chips on here and a math coprocessor. This is a 68882, 33 megahertz. It has some logic chips. These are GALs, I think. Yeah, so these are programmable logic chips, some capacitors, of course, some weird expansion header, I assume, and some jumpers. And this says FPU clock, so FPU clock probably, seems to fit a quartz oscillator. And on the back side we have some additional little ceramic capacitors, a serial number sticker, and it actually says copyright 1993 phase 5, which was a pretty well-known and reputable maker and seller of expansions back in the day. I think the company actually still exists. And if I peel back this label, which has kind of come off already, yeah, I can just remove it, I guess. It says Blizzard, I assume. I'm just going to peel this off completely because it already is destroyed anyway. So yeah, let me clean this up and see what's underneath there. That could be a model number. Sometimes it's rather easy to find these cards in some database, and sometimes you also still get like the manuals for them and things like that. I don't know, not too sure about this one. We're going to figure that out in a second. And there we go, I have the remnants of the sticker removed, and this seems to be a Blizzard 1200-4 or /4, copyright 1993 phase 5. So let's see if we can find any info on this particular expansion card. Yeah, I found this in the Amiga hardware database, which is a very nice collection of everything that was released for the Amigas back in the day. And this indeed is a Blizzard 1200-4. The 4 stands for 4 megabytes fast RAM on board, 18 nanosecond RAM. 8 DIP chips, that's the ones we saw. And it is expandable to 8 megabytes with an add-on board, the Add4 board, it seems. So that's what this strange expansion slot thing is for. This is actually the main purpose of this, and you have the option to add a PLCC FPU, that's our coprocessor, a floating point unit, a 68881 or a 6882 are addable, 20 to 40 megahertz or 14 megahertz. 14 megahertz being the clock speed of the Amiga 1200. And we can use this without an oscillator. That's good to know. The FPU can run only at 14 megahertz, so synchronous to the processor speed. And with a suitable oscillator installed, it can run between 20 and 40 megahertz. The earlier versions had a battery backed up clock. We also have some pictures here. This is the version with the little rechargeable coin cell here. That's quite interesting. Mine doesn't have that. I don't think it has the footprint for this even. So it's a later version probably. This is what mine looks like. This is the board without the FPU. And now I'm wondering why this didn't work. This is exactly the board we had. They removed the sticker on this one as well. And there seem to be two main versions of this. And we also see some adverts here from German newspapers. More power for your Amiga. New power for your Amiga. And it seems to have been 494 Deutschmarks in 1993. Oh, the expansion memory was 329 Deutschmarks as well. So, this was not a cheap thing. I'm not sure what that would be in today's money, but yeah, 469 Deutschmarks. Oh, you could buy two versions, the version without the clock was 469 Deutschmarks and the version with the clock was 499. This is from 1993. Okay, interesting. And the Add4 memory module was 349 Deutschmarks. And you could also get the processors here directly. 149 for a 20 megahertz version and 33 megahertz version was 199 Deutschmarks. So not cheap at all, but also quite cool actually, because it gave you quite a bit of memory for back in the day, which made the Amiga a lot more useful actually. And the coprocessor was not really used by many games or such, but if you wanted to do some 3D rendering, for example, that was super useful. So this is all the info we get in the Amiga hardware database, which is kind of shame because I still don't know if we need to set those jumpers or something. So let me have a closer look. We're just going to look for a manual or something. And we have one here, Retro Commodore. Yeah, that's a manual from Phase 5 Digital Products in Frankfurt. So yeah, this is the original Einbauanleitung, which is the setup manual basically. So this is the manual that tells you how to do this. I'm just going to read through this. It's all in German because it was a German company. Or it still is a company. And yeah, this is only 2 pages, so there's not a lot of information in here. Let's see if we can find out something. There's a jumper for using the processor clock, it seems. FPU clock. Okay, and you have to remove that in case you install a quartz oscillator. Okay, this thing is super versatile actually. So what I could gather from this is that you can use a quartz oscillator to run the FPU clock asynchronous to the CPU speed. So you can run it faster than the CPU, which probably makes sense for things like 3D rendering and things like that, but not necessarily for my use case, which is mostly just gaming, to be honest. So the memory expansion should work no matter what, but we have to set the jumpers according to what we have installed. So we don't have a quartz oscillator, and I don't have any fitting quartz oscillators at hand that we could try, but we should be able to jumper this to a synchronous coprocessor running at 14.28 megahertz. And this also mentions the Add4 memory module, which gives you 8 megabytes total. So there's another 4 megabytes on that module, which is quite cool actually. But 4 megabytes memory expansion in the Amiga 1200 gives us 6 megabytes of total RAM. And the RAM on this card should be super quick. So it should probably speed up the Amiga quite significantly, because all the 2 megabytes chip memory that are on board in the Amiga 1200 can be used for graphics and things like that. And this fast RAM is the expanded RAM that is going to be super fast and usable by the rest of the system for general memory purposes. So that's cool. Okay, let's look at the card. I'm not sure if I got this correctly. I still don't know what I have to set if we don't have a quartz oscillator. The manual doesn't really say that. But yeah, we're going to find out, I guess. That's our coprocessor, the FPU 33 megahertz maximum. You can usually overclock these slightly because they take higher clock speeds fine usually. This is the slot for the Add4 expansion for 4 megabytes. If anyone has an Add4 lying around that they want to part with, I would be super happy to try that. But of course, I did a quick search on eBay and it's basically unobtainium these days. Maybe somebody has with RAM chips that they could send me. I'm not sure if these things even still exist at this point in time. Probably a lot of them were discarded. We have our memory, we have our socket for the quartz oscillator as I assumed, and we have some jumpers here. And this is our F-clock jumper, and this is a jumper that's labeled 8. So the manual says that if you have the 8 megabyte expansion, installed, you have to set this jumper. And I think the F-clock jumper, from what I could gather, was set from factory if you had the coprocessor installed. So I guess that's the jumper that determines that the coprocessor gets the clock speed from the processor, so the system clock, 14.28 megahertz. So I'm just going to put a jumper in there and try if that maybe is enough to make this expansion work. So yeah, last time we tried, in the last video, I only very briefly tried this because I just thought after cleaning this, maybe I just plug this in and we have a nice expansion. But as you've maybe seen in the last video, we just got a yellow screen, I think, and then a red screen that was flashing, and then the system just locked up, basically. So it could be that that was because the coprocessor was on here but didn't get any clock, so it just stalled the system basically because it wasn't running. That would be an explanation for that. So I'm just going to put this in the trapdoor, which should be a matter of putting it in like so. And then we just plug it into the main board. A common thing that happens with the Amiga 1200 in particular, because there are so many pins on this edge connector, is that this doesn't make good contact. I sprayed both sides basically with contact cleaner in the previous video to make sure that this makes good contact. But one trick you can do if you get flaky responses from any expansion card, just lift this out a millimeter or so, so this still makes contact. Don't push it in fully, just relieve it a tiny little bit, and sometimes that helps and helps this make better contact and makes the expansion work. I'm just going to plug this in fully for testing for now, because I'm pretty confident we cleaned this up quite well. Sometimes it literally is just a bit of dirt in these connectors or on the PCB side here. Not going to close this up yet. Let's try if this boots up now. That would be fun indeed. And of course, I'm going to link the pages I've just shown in the video description in case you have one of these cards yourself, so you can find the manual a bit easier. So yeah, let's see. Just turning this on. And what do we get? It's booting up, it seems. We don't get a yellow screen or a red screen. That's a very good sign. Yay! And how much memory do we have? 2 megabytes of graphics memory and 3.7 other memory, which is the fast memory, I assume. Nice! So this thing just works. It was literally just one jumper that prevented this thing from working. One missing jumper. So always good to have these resources on the internet still for an expansion card from 1993. Let's see what it can do. By the way, in order to make this boot up without an internal disk drive connected, I just put a little terminator board on the disk drive connector on the main board so that it doesn't look for a disk drive forever, which it is going to do, at least with this Kickstart revision, which is the original 3.0 Kickstart ROMs that I had in my original Amiga 1200 from back in the day. It's not going to boot properly. It's just going to show the busy mouse pointer for forever if you don't terminate that, or even better, connect a real drive. I'm going to show you that on the board in a second as well. So let's see what we have here. Okay, let's start sysinfo and see what we have. Yeah, the FPU is recognized. That's nice. The memory is utilized. We have everything in fast RAM. Most of the things are in fast RAM actually. Let's see. Memory. Yeah, 4 megabytes fast RAM, public, 24-bit DMA. That's going to be a significant speed improvement just because of the faster RAM. Way faster than the chip RAM, I think. That's our internal chip RAM. Let's see what the speed benchmark kind of thing says. Okay, that is actually not too shabby for an Amiga 1200. 2825 dry stones, which makes this 4 times faster than a standard Amiga 600. That is quite significant actually. I don't know if this takes into account the FPU. It doesn't really utilize that, I guess. Let's see what boards. Yeah, there's our expansion, Zora 2 expansion. 8512 is the manufacturer code, I assume, of Phase 5 products, 4 megabytes size. And it says "let's go" here, so it realizes that this is a slightly accelerated Amiga, even if the processor is the original one, the 68EC020 that's originally in the 1200. But it has an FPU, and the faster memory makes it quite a bit faster. This is our speed improvement, this is the original one, this is our speed. Nice! Yeah, while this isn't a full accelerator card, this is going to be super useful. The extra RAM is super handy for things like WHD load installs, which I happen to have on here as well. You can now just run WHD load games fine, and they are going to utilize the extra RAM. The problem with only using the 2 megabytes onboard RAM is that many games run into memory issues with WHD load because that runs a whole lot of things in the background. But with a 4 megabyte expansion, all of these games basically should run fine, which is going to be super useful. Let's see, Turrican 2, that didn't run at all in the standard configuration, just crashed. Should run now. Yeah, does start up fine. Nice. So that's what this thing could be useful for, and that's the primary use case that I use this Amiga for, I think. That works fine. Yeah, if you can find a memory expansion for the Amiga 1200, you don't even need a super huge memory expansion for the Amiga 1200. I think 2 megabytes, 4 megabytes, 8 megabytes memory expansions are going to make everything that you would ever need to run with WHD load. That's going to make that work in the Amiga 1200. So if you don't want to spend the money on a proper accelerator card, which is of course even better because the Amiga is going to run a whole lot snappier and things like that. So if you just want games, this is a very nice way to go actually. And also probably the least expensive way to go. So let me show you the DFO Terminator that I have in here. That's here. So these little boards, I have one from Sorden IE here. There are many of these available that just plug into the floppy disk drive connector on the board here. Basically what it does is just connect pin 2 and pin 10 through a little diode. Positive side of the diode on pin 2, negative side on pin 10. And this just pretends to be a connected disk drive. And if you don't want or need a disk drive, this also speeds up the boot process quite significantly on these Amiga 1200s. So if you just want to use the CF card and WHD load, this is probably the way to go. I like to have original disk drives in there because I have a lot of disks. But this is a super cool way of speeding up your boot process if you just want this as a WHD load gaming machine or just want to use other stuff from a CF card or from a hard disk. And you can make your own. Obviously, you just need a standard 2.54 millimeter header with these two pins and a diode going from pin 2 to pin 10. This Amiga is now super useful. You can use it as a WHD load machine at this point. I'm still going to take a look at this disk drive, but not in this video. I'm going to figure something out for another video and try to resurrect that. At least we made this work again, and it boots up fine with the Terminator in there. Everything I tried, WHD load wise, works beautifully. I don't have any 3D rendering software to try, which is probably going to be sped up by the FPU on this little expansion here quite significantly because that makes use of the FPU. The games and things like that, most of them don't use that at all, I guess, because not many people had these expansion cards in there. Most of the games are optimized for a standard machine, I guess. Yeah, this was a way shorter video than I anticipated. I was picturing in my mind's eye that we would have to troubleshoot this expansion card, but it just works beautifully. I had this running for quite a while. I tried some games and things, and everything seems to work. It's just working. Maybe I'm going to get a quartz oscillator for this and see if it works even faster with that, but I don't think it's really useful for anything aside from graphics editing and things like that, which I'm not going to do extensively on this Amiga anyway, but would be nice to see if that makes a huge speed difference or anything like that. For this video, I think that's it. I just wanted to see if I could make this work at all, and yeah, as you've seen, I did. Thank you for your little amount of time that you spent watching this. Special thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon or on the channel memberships page or on Ko-fi. Thanks for your subscriptions, for your likes and your comments, and hopefully see you again on this channel sometime. I'm Jan Beta. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.